3, 2, 1.
You ready?
You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Real Pineapple. This is your humble host, Hunter, here. I hope you're all having a great week so far, or weekend, whenever you're listening to this. I've got a review for Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is directed by Jason Reitman, of course, the son of Ivan Reitman, and it's also written by Jason Reitman and Gil Keenan. So, to get into this movie, oh god, when was the last Ghostbusters? What was that, 2015? 2016? 2016. So, I reviewed that, and you can go check out that review. And I believe I gave it a C or a C minus. I couldn't remember which. But long story short, my big issue with that movie is, it's all women. Of course, that's why I hate it. What's really maddening about that movie is that you have Kate McKinnon, you have, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on their names, Leslie Jones, Kristen Wiig, and Melissa McCarthy. I really wish they would have actually leaned into the canon of the films. I think trying to make it a reboot, was actually the wrong route to go. Because even by just calling it Ghostbusters, I mean, this is called Ghostbusters Afterlife. The 2016 one is just called Ghostbusters. They added that dumb answer the call thing kind of later on in marketing, which I thought was just very, very Birds of Prey-ish. Just like can you not decide what the fuck you want to call a movie before you release it? Come on. But of course, there are a bunch of, Neanderthal men who were just like, this has women in it. You can't take my Ghostbusters. Brr, 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 brr. So I understand that those men are out there. But at the end of the day, it just was not a good film. Having the Ghostbusters logo turn into Stay Puft, essentially, it's like, come on, y'all. It's just, but it's a very frustrating movie because I think that if you have not even the female component's what's irritating. It's just irritating because people are like, oh, you only hate the movie because it stars women. And look, I'm not the biggest fan of Melissa McCarthy. I have talked about her at length on this podcast. I don't like most of her comedy. But Kristen Wiig is one of the best actresses we have working. Leslie Jones is absolutely hilarious. And so is McKinnon. Movie career admittedly is a bit spotty, but as far as a comedian, she's absolutely hilarious. But the film felt like it was fighting against the canon. It didn't know what it wanted to do. The movie is way too damn long. And the third act is just really just kind of this emotionless CGI fest that I just went, yeah, I don't really care about anyone in this film. And that is the complete opposite of this film, where we go ahead and we follow Phoebe, who's played by McKenna Grace. You know her from Captain Marvel, I, Tonya. She was in Gifted with Chris Evans, which if you have not seen Gifted, you should watch Gifted. She's really great in that. But one of the things that I absolutely adore about McKenna Grace, first off, she's gonna be a star. She's gonna be something. I'm already a fan of hers. She sings too, which, wow, really? Like, what can't you do? The big thing about this movie for me is that, and we talk about nostalgia, how incredibly powerful nostalgia is. I love the first Ghostbusters film. It's one of my favorite films I've ever seen. I understand that people I don't even say shit on Ghostbusters 2. I enjoy Ghostbusters 2 quite a bit. It's been admittedly probably a decade-ish since I've seen it, but I'd probably give it I'd probably give it a B+. Just based on what I remember. I really enjoy Ghostbusters 2. But then we get into what I officially and no one will tell me otherwise, Ghostbusters 3, which is Ghostbusters a video game. If you have not played Ghostbusters a video game, it has been remastered in the last, I think, year and a half. I highly recommend you seek it out because it is an absolutely amazing game. And then we get to this. So, and again, I'm not counting 2016. Yell at me all you want. I don't care. That movie's not good. Here's what I'll say. This is better for me than Ghostbusters 2. I haven't played the game in a little while. I'm going to say it's better than the game. This is how I felt when I watched Abrams' first Star Trek, where I think we can all agree for Star Trek films, the bar is Wrath of Khan. Like, Wrath of Khan is an incredible film. If you've not seen the Wrath of Khan, you really fucking should. Or you can watch Star Trek Into Darkness. I'm kidding. Trek nerds, don't yell at me. But Wrath of Khan is, that's top tier Star Trek as far as films. This is really close to being as great as Ghostbusters the original. Like, it's not as good, but it's really close. And considering the gap is even as close as it is, that's an achievement in itself for me, which is something I was not expecting at all. But we go ahead and we follow Phoebe and her brother Trevor, played by Finn Wolford. You, of course, know him from Stranger Things and It. I have not seen It because fuck clowns, but their brother and sister. Their mom is Carrie Coon, who plays Callie. You would recognize her from Widows, which she's great in, Gone Girl, and The Post, to name a few things. But basically, Callie gets evicted. She's behind on her rent. Landlord goes, "Hey, that's cool. Here's an eviction notice. Get the hell out of here." So they go ahead and go to the small ass town that we find out that a certain Ghostbuster has been hiding out in. And the thing I will say about this movie, one thing I was really worried about was, are they going to address Egon, Harold Ramis, rest in peace, sir? Are they going to address Egon in any way? And they do. And it was done in a way that I went, man, this is actually very classy as far as how they're handling this. And yet, it's classy in the way it's handled, but it also leads to one of my favorite emotional moments from a film in 2021, which, if you would have told me Ghostbusters Afterlife would have had that, I would have looked at you and kind of laughed at you. But they go ahead and move this new town, and it really is about Phoebe discovering, kind of the secrets behind the Ghostbusters and why they had a falling out. And honestly, all that stuff in particular, I thought was handled so well because, I could not stop yawning. The movie itself goes ahead and acknowledges that, Ghostbusters were a huge thing for a while, and then people kind of stopped needing them, and then, they kind of fell out of favor. And it's very much in, kind of in line with the property itself. Ghostbusters is one of those properties where, you look at things like the real Ghostbusters and, some of the animated stuff that they've done. And Ghostbusters has always kind of hung around, but it never really hit that level of popularity again until the game came out, which made people, myself included, go, "Oh shit, okay, so there's still some juice left in this property." And the big thing about Phoebe is that she's completely on the spectrum. It's the film is not hiding it whatsoever. Very much like Egon clearly was on the spectrum, Phoebe is as well. But it never feels like a gimmick. It never feels like the film is making fun of her, which, let's be real, that's easily a trap, like a ghost trap. That's easily a trap that this film could have fallen into, and it luckily completely avoids it. Which, thank goodness, I was very happy to see that that they were able to go ahead and avoid that. I want to shout out real quick this guy Logan Kim, who plays this guy named Podcast in the movie, who befriends Phoebe. This is his acting debut. Ghostbusters Afterlife, and young man, a tip. I wish I was wearing a hat so I could tip it to you. Just bravo, absolute bravo, because podcast has a crush on Phoebe, but it never comes across. It's more akin to something like Bumblebee, where you go like, yeah, you're being a dumb guy, but it's never creepy. It never comes across as, malicious or anything like that. It just comes across very sweet. And this is going to sound really cheesy. It's always nice to see just kids kind of develop those relationships and even just a crush. It kind of takes me back to something like My Girl, where I just go, thankfully there are no bees in this, but I just like seeing kind of that purity of, before you get into all these other variables of what a relationship could be. Just a simple, hey, I like you. And hey, would you listen to my podcast? It's so earnest and just so sweet in a way that I just went, I really just love that it just is this, and that they're going on this mystery together, trying to figure all this out. I love that. Again, it's simple. You don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes things can just be simple, and that's okay. Their sequence in the trailers have teased it, and I'm sure you've seen clips by now, but there is this incredibly well done chase scene where they're chasing this ghost that's Slimer-esque but only eats metal. I'm blanking on what they call the ghost. I think they call it like Munch'em or something like that. But they go ahead and discover this ghost and go ahead and chase it throughout the town. And that was a chase scene that I went, this is already better than anything that the prior Ghostbusters film did. And that's maybe only 40 minutes-ish in. That was something that I love that scene's in there. And it really gives the film some weight, especially when you see Phoebe using the blaster and going ahead and destroying parts of the city of the town, which is so fucking intense, but I love it. I want to go real quick and shout out Paul Rudd, because yes, Paul Rudd is great in everything for the most part. Like, the man rarely misses, and I'm such a fan of his, and I'm always so happy to see Paul Rudd pop up in really anything. And his portrayal here as Mr. Groberson makes me so happy because he's a teacher who loves his job. He's teaching summer school, and he's like, oh, I'm teaching summer school, but I can show these kids, I can go ahead and pretty much be very loose and just have fun with the situation. He shows the kids Cujo, which was something that made me laugh, and he's showing them Child's Play like the next day. Like, he doesn't care. It's like it's summer school. Who the fuck cares? But seeing how he is engaging Phoebe as far as a scientist and not talking down to her, which is something that I feel like a lot of adults do in general, let alone in kids' films, and yet he's always treating her like an equal. And I'm going to make this completely random reference, but stick with me. There's this scene from 2.5 Men where Jake gets an A on a test, and he's really excited about it. And then Evelyn, Charlene Allen's mom, just completely is like, oh, everyone got an A. Basically, what makes you so special? Mr. Groberson could have totally been that adult and just extinguished Phoebe's want and love for science. But he doesn't do that. He's actually wanting to encourage her to continue to pursue it. And there's this great scene where him and Callie are on a date, and she's talking about the fact that she just doesn't really understand Phoebe and wishes she would get in trouble. And Mr. Groberson, considering he wants to sleep with her, he actually checks her and is like, look, she's a kid. She's still figuring herself out. She's a weird kid, but she's so interested in science, and you should be happy that she's so invested in something like this so young. And I went, dude, thank you. Like more kids need to hear that. If okay, if you're not able to draw, like, I can't draw a stick figure to save my life. But if someone came up to me when I was 6 who was a teacher, was like, oh man, your drawings suck, that would break my fucking heart. I'd go home and curl in a ball and cry. And I really appreciate the fact that that isn't in here. Because that could have been so mean-spirited, and they could have probably used some plotline to try to justify it. But you don't get that. And I really appreciate that that's not in here. I really am trying to dance around things because this is a movie I want people to really discover the big surprises of it by, on their own. I will simply say, when you find out what Egon had kind of been up to, you go, oh, this makes a hell of a lot of sense if you've watched Ghostbusters. And you just go, oh, wow, damn it, what a smart motherfucker you are. And the opening sequence, as far as how that's handled, I thought was so well done, and it really does set a tone for everything that we go ahead and get as the film goes on. And how do I want to say this? I have talked about my love of Spider-Man No Way Home. I absolutely love Spider-Man No Way Home. It's an incredible film. Everyone should see it. But I will be the first to admit, this, I think, just scratches that itch for me, the third act, just a little more. Not much more. It's really close, but I think I like this third act better. And I think part of it, and I will admit, because I'm always honest with y'all, but I expected No Way Home to be great. I really was like, okay, there's really no way you'll fuck this up. And they didn't. No Way Home's great. But I really was going into this going, okay, you're going to take a swing on Ghostbusters again. I really hope you get it right this time. And not only do they get it right, but they set up really a new world for this franchise. And considering how well the film actually did at the box office, which, hell yeah. Yeah, give me more of this. Give me more Ghostbusters with Trevor and Phoebe and Callie and podcasts. Like, give me more of this. And the third act of this film is just... So I was watching it with my partner, and she hasn't seen Ghostbusters, the original, in a while. But we're sitting there watching it, and even she started crying like, wow, because the movie just really does respect where it comes from without being a prisoner to the source material. And that's a really hard trick to be able to pull off. And yet the film does it in spades over and over again. The use of puppeteering blended with CG was so well done. You get the demon dogs at a point in the film. You see that in the trailer, so I'm not giving anything away there. But seeing that had me so on edge. And when you see Mr. Gruberson just running, you're like, oh my fucking god. But the way that scene is handled, and really the way all the horror is handled here, there is a good amount of horror elements to this, and a couple jump scares that actually got me in the theater, where I was like, oh, you sons of bitches. But there's just enough horror here, I think, that'll keep kids kind of going like, oh, shit, okay. But the film is so well paced that I was never bored. The film is just over 2 hours. It's like 2 hours, 4 minutes. And it feels like it earns every minute of its runtime. And at the end of the day, did I want a sequel? That's what I always have to say, is did this film do enough to warrant me going, oh yeah, I want to see you continue this? And hell yeah, give me more Ghostbusters. I want more of this, because my god, what a pleasant surprise this film happened to be. And it just really makes me happy that a new generation is going to discover this property because of this film, which at the end of the day is all you can really fucking ask for. So, getting my final thoughts here real quick. Jason Reitman, I know I mentioned him earlier. He's got a hell of a resume. He was a producer on Jennifer's Body, which, while not the best film in the world, is much better than people give it credit for. Juno directed that. Wrote and directed Thank You for Smoking. That's pretty good. Directed, wrote, and produced Up in the Air. Yeah, that's pretty good. Directed Young Adult with Charlize Theron. Pretty good, too. Was a producer on Jeff Who Lives at Home, which, if you have not seen that, pretty damn good flick. He wrote, directed, and produced Labor Day, that movie with Josh Brolin and Kate Winslet, which I totally forgot existed. Yeah, you don't need to worry about that. He was a producer on Whiplash, produced and directed Tully, again with Charlize Theron, and then went ahead and directed, produced, and wrote The Frontrunner with Hugh Jackman, which was a damn good flick as well. So the man's got a hell of a resume. So him, because I was already hearing some people go like, oh, nepotism at its finest, here we go. Jason Reitman directing this shit. And he's more than earned it just off that resume. And considering what he did with this property, dude, go ahead. Let him be the guy for this property moving forward. Which, hell yeah, what a pleasant surprise this film was. This is a fan-fucking-tastic. I really can't justify not giving this a fan-fucking-tastic. I knew what was coming in the third act, and I'm sitting there watching my partner watch it, and I started getting choked up because I was like, oh god, I know what's around the corner. And just rewatching the film, it just reaffirms my fan-fucking-tastic. I was so happy that this film did well. I'm so happy that people were engaged with it. There was when I went and saw I did go see this in the theater that Thursday night when it premiered, and one of the things that made me cry all over again while I'm watching the third act is I hear this little girl with her parents go, I want to be like Phoebe. And you know what, man, like hearing kids say I want to be like that character, someone that is a positive influence who is a scientist, there is a point, and this isn't a spoiler, so I'll say this. There's a point where Callie's talking to Phoebe, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're a," and every fiber in your being goes, she's gonna say Ghostbuster, and Phoebe just looks at her mom and goes, "I'm a scientist." And I just went, "Oh my god, oh movie," and I started getting choked. Oh god, I'm getting choked up thinking about it. But it's one of those things where you just go, "This is how you do this correctly." And there's a mid-credit and a post-credit scene. And the post-credit scene is such a great teaser for where I believe we're heading. I can't wait to see where we're heading and what else we are going to potentially get from this property. But fan-fucking-tastic. Please watch this movie. It's out on digital and Blu-ray and 4K now. I am a proud owner of this film, and this will definitely be something I'm lending out to people. But yeah, watch this. It's absolutely awesome. And McKenna Grace, Finn Wolford, and I'm so sorry, I almost forgot to mention her because she was in Freaky. Celeste O'Connor. She plays. She and Trevor have this back and forth, which is actually quite fun, and setting up a woman of color to be a prominent component in Ghostbusters going forward. Hell yeah, give me that. So yeah, I'm just excited, which is something I really didn't think I was gonna say leaving this theater. She plays Lucky, by the way, but give me more Ghostbusters, give me more in this cast, build on the canon more. Yeah, let's go. So excited to see where they continue to take this, because this will get a sequel. They haven't greenlit one yet, but this is getting a sequel. But everyone, Ghostbusters Afterlife, what did you think of it? Let us know in the comments. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter at jhunterrealpineapple. You can follow Scott on Twitter at Nearman1st. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can find us in most places where you listen to podcasts. It's going to be SoundCloud, Apple and Google Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Amazon Music, and TuneUp at The Real Pineapple. And you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/jhunterrealpineapple. That again is REEL. And you can find me on Letterboxd at Black Shazam, and on TikTok at Black Shazam 775. I'm going to start doing what I'm going to call real shorts on there. So mini size reviews, in case you don't have time to listen to the longer ones. But everyone, thank you so much for listening. We'll have reviews up this month for Batman 89, Batman Returns. Oh gosh, what else? Since it's Black History Month, gonna have reviews up for Atlanta season 1 and 2, Watchmen, The Harder They Fall, Waves, to name a few things. I'm really excited to get those reviews out to y'all. But everyone, please stay safe out there. Thank you again for your support. Wear your mask, get your booster, get your COVID shot if you haven't gotten that yet. Tell someone you love them. Stay safe out there, and we will talk to you soon.